Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today we are going to continue our segment of looking at units within Adeptus Mechanicus Codex. This time I'm going to look at Kataphron Breachers, which is a troop choice for the Admechs. Firstly, I'm going to look at their stats, and then I'm going to look at the weapon options and special abilities that they have as well. Cool, so they have a very similar stat line to their destroyers, which I should have discussed first in one of the previous videos, depends when these get uploaded. Kataphron Breachers are movement 6, which is not bad, pretty average. They are weapon skill and ballistic skill 4, which is average I guess, but it would be nice for such a dedicated shooting unit to be slightly higher, especially if they do have combat elements as well. They are however strength and toughness 5, so having that extra bit of strength and survivability is going to be quite key for them. They do have 3 wounds apiece, so obviously they are going to be sticking about a wee bit longer as well. They have 3 attacks apiece, so they've got higher attacks than destroyers I believe, which is kind of okay depending what you're planning to do with Breachers. And they are leadership 7 with a 3+ save, so they've got a better save as well, basically because they are more forward line units than their destroyer brothers. So yeah, that's their stat line. In terms of weapons, they have a choice of 4 different things they can use for. So they have heavy arc rifles, which are range 36, heavy 2, strength 6, -2 AP and D3 damage. When attacking a vehicle, this weapon has a damage of D6. So obviously this is more gear that they're saying that we want you to use this against vehicles. But again, it's not bad against infantry either. It's got, you know, a not bad AP, random damage, but still potentially 3 and a big range with 2 shots. Not bad. Torsion Cannon, which is range 24, heavy 1, strength 8, -4 AP and damage D6. So quite a short range, only 1 shot on a unit that's already hitting half the time, but you know, high strength, high AP and high damage is pretty cool. We have the Arc Claw next. Now this is the melee options for the Kataphron Breachers. It's a melee weapon. It has strength +1, making them strength 6, -1 AP and 1 damage when attacking vehicles. This weapon has a damage characteristic of D3. So obviously again, this is wanting to be, they want to smash up vehicles, break them apart, gives them a little bit more damage hopefully when they do attack, and at 3 attacks they do attack a fair wee bit against vehicles. Hydraulic Claw next, which is again a melee weapon, is strength ×2, so make them strength 10, which is pretty nice. -1 AP, so you know, not a very high AP removal, D3 damage, and when attacking with this weapon you must subtract 1 from your hit rolls. So it does mean they're going to be hitting on 5+, which makes it kind of risky for that, especially at -1 AP. Doesn't guarantee you'll even get through your opponent's armour. It's a bit dangerous in that one. So they usually come stock with a heavy arc rifle and arc claw. However, you can replace the heavy arc rifle with the Torsion Cannon, and you may replace the arc claw with the hydraulic claw. Special rule wise, they've got Canticles of the Messiah, which is pretty standard. They have Biotics. All models in this unit have a 6+ invul save. They've got a great save of 3+, but having that 6+ invul is always handy as well. That one time you make that really ridiculous 6+ save is going to be awesome. And they have heavy battle servitor. Models in this unit do not suffer the penalty for firing heavy weapons after they've moved, but can only advance D3. This is a more designed towards moving forward unit, which is debatable depending on how you play, but certainly having a wee bit extra advance is kind of handy, but they still put up a fair bit of shots themselves as is. Anyway, so I have notes for these, basically sort of my analysis of Kataphron Breachers. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to do a bit of discussion on the two sort of options they've got war gear wise. I'm going to look at Forge Worlds, and I'm going to look at Stratagems as well. One thing to know, and I forgot this in the Destroyers video, is that they do have, I think, is it Servants of the Machine God ability? Soldiers of the Machine God. That affects troops. They are troops, so it means if they're sitting on an objective, basically you control it, unless your opponent has a similar unit with the same ability, then it goes down to numbers. And tragically, you're not going to really win the numbers game because as troops you're quite expensive. So yeah, let's have a look at the heavy arc rifle versus the Torsion Cannon. There's a medium difference between them in Points wise, you know, there's a wee bit, I think the heavy arc rifle is quite a bit cheaper than the Torsion Cannon, so something to think on there. The heavy arc rifle is a cheaper option, that's it, and if I was to be honest, the better of the two, which is tragic for someone like me because I have a bunch of breachers all armed with Torsion Cannons. My mistake for not magnetising. I've learned I'm going to start magnetising a lot more of my forces because 8th has really dropped and given a lot of options for what you want a unit to do. So heavy arc rifle has good range and an okay amount of shots that it can produce, and becomes more dangerous against vehicles because obviously it goes from D3 damage to D6 with darting. They have the range to hit your opponent's backfield vehicles, however as they are strength 6 they are going to struggle to wound most vehicles as is, because if you're fighting a lot of vehicles usually they're around toughness 7, sometimes toughness 8, so with 2 shots you are going to be 5s to wound them either way. Because they are D3 damage, you might find they actually are quite good against Terminators or Centurions or something that's got a wee bit of an armour save to it, because -2 to the AP is quite nice and it does multiple damage, so things with multiple wounds and a high armour save, or even a medium one, they'll still do quite a bit of damage on them. But if you're playing against an opponent who is using light vehicles such as Elder, Dark Elder, some Orc vehicles, not all of them, that, you know, with toughness 6, and they're wounding them 4s, and that can be a real pain for them, because then you go into D6 damage with, you know, heavy 2. Might be a pain. Torsion Cannon is a pretty good weapon in stats, almost last cannon like. I think it's got 1 less strength, 1 higher AP, and it does the same D6 damage that a last cannon does. It means toughness 7 vehicles will rightly fear it. However, there are 2 glaring problems that I see that this weapon has. One is its range. It is 24 inches, so you've got to be moving forward to make sure that you are hitting your opponent's backline vehicles if they do have any. But if your opponent's moving forward with transports etc, you're probably going to be able to hit them. But still a much shorter range, 12-inch difference between that and heavy arc rifle. And yeah, the second one is obviously the ballistic skill of Breachers is only 4+, so you've got to keep that in mind when using this weapon. It's 1 shot, you're going to hit 50% of the time, which means in unit 3 you're only going to get 1.5 hits, which for the amount of points you're paying is quite scary. Obviously with a Dominus or Call nearby or Benediction of the Omnissiah you might get more hits, but it's not incredibly reliable. However, if all your shots connect though, like strength 8 -4, D6 damage, if it's in a vehicle or anything, it's going to take a bunch of wounds hopefully. You know, if you get through the wounds part, it's going to cause a wee bit of damage. However, it's just the unreliability of the hit, I'm a little bit worried about those ones. I just wish there was more options to guarantee the hits, which would be nice, though we do have lots of options as is. Next up, I'm going to look at the Arc Claw versus the Hydraulic Claw. Not much price difference between these two, however one is double than the other, but they're both relatively cheap, so not too bad. Arc Claw is the cheaper of the 2 options and not bad strength, mediocre AP and more damage against vehicles, so yeah, not bad. I like this option over the 2 to be honest. It's cheaper is the main reason why. Kataphron Breachers, however, are not going to win any combats against a dedicated combat force. You know, they're not going to really tear down anything. However, you know, you might strip a few more wounds off a walker or vehicle if you get engaged with them. The problem with that is that if you're against a walker such as Dreadnought, they're probably going to hit back hard and probably wipe out the Breachers as is, especially if they're carrying a fist or an axe of some time, and that walker's just going to toss them aside. And if you're playing against a vehicle, they'll probably fall back next turn, and if you got into combat with a vehicle, then how do you do that? Like, are you playing your Breachers as an assault unit? Did you wheel them up that far? Good for you. But if you've got like someone who's offloaded a Rhino filled with troops and the Rhino's sitting there, you might be tempted to jump in there, fire in your heavy arc rifle or your Torsion Cannon, and then charge in and cause additional damage. But if you actually get into your opponent's backline with these, how? I'm impressed. It's pretty cool. So, well, there is one way, but that's a stratagem. We'll get there later. Forge World recommendations. The Mars Forge World rules is probably recommended here for the ability to get Canticles, aiming for either Shroud Sun, because we all love that ability, and also Benediction of the Omnissiah for the reroll once to hit. Again, I'm going to make the same point I made with Destroyers, is that these probably aren't the highest priority target for the rerolls from Call or from your Warlord if it's a Dominus. So they're not going to be the highest priority, but obviously if you are near them, then they should hopefully be able to benefit from it either way. Certainly if you take the Mars Warlord trait, which adds an extra 3 inches to their aura ability, does make it more reliable that you might actually get the rerolls. And really, if you're going Mars, the main one you want is Shroud Sun. You can make an argument that you could go with the reroll ones to hit, which might be helpful, but I'm a bit like, when it comes to Breachers, debatable on that one. Other ones, Forge World dogmas to think about is obviously Stygus 8, because it reduces your opponent's shooting at them, which is always awesome. I mean, you might not be planning to move these guys forwards, you might, I'm struggling to see it, but if you end up being within sort of that 12 inches, fair enough, but over that, then your opponent's going to be -1 to hit, and it's always handy, always helpful. Again, a point can be made for Gria and Lucius can help in survivability, but Stygius or Stygus, murdering them, is probably the more better survivable one. It's the one I prefer if you're going for a dogma that's geared towards survivability. Stratagems recommended. What I recommend is Benevolence of the Omnissiah is an okay strategy in general, adding a layer of survivability to your units, essentially feel no pain for 1 command point. Honestly though, if you're using this, there's probably better targets in your army for this stratagem, as in bigger units that you probably want to see them live longer than your Breachers. But however, if your Breachers are sitting on an objective you badly need to defend, then yeah, this will absolutely help when they are getting targeted. And it does work well when you consider the next stratagem we're going to talk about, which is Acquisition at any cost, which if your unit is within 3 inches of an objective, you add 1 to their save throw and to their attack characteristic. This makes them, basically a 2+ Terminator save, so it puts their survivability to really high, and 4 attacks apiece, which will deter a few people. But bad because it is 2 command points to achieve that. So yeah, you are getting, a higher save and 4 attacks apiece. It may just deter your opponent, but it's 2 command points, which is a little bit expensive for a unit like this. A Horde army that does not have much AP may, a Horde army that does not have much AP damage in it may go, oh well, we're not going to shift them because they've got 2 up saves, we don't have enough attacks to get through that armor value. Then you may secure that objective better, and certainly with Servants of the Machine Gods. That rule. Servants of the Machine God, as long as more Codexes don't come out that have that rule, though I'm pretty sure most Codexes are, and it's not a troop that's gone at you, then you should hold that objective, which might screw the game. You never know, so that's why I thought it was quite handy. Fresh Converts for Agrippina, which is another stratagem I talked about, I think, with the Destroyers, because it applies to them, Breachers and Servitors. Where you spend 3 command points to wheel in a fresh batch of models, provided you can take you can take a unit off the field, a fresh batch comes in. It is a way to be able to move up your opponent's lines as well. Would be awesome if you could do it once the unit is wiped, but on the rare occasion, you can, you've got to have models there. On the rare occasion you do have 1 wound left, then it's going to be quite handy on that side, so you might pull them off and get them there. If you have Destroyers with them as well, this is probably, Destroyers going to be a better call, in my mind. But it does allow you, if you've got a big unit of them, they are lower power levels, so it does mean you might be able to actually get more. To be able to pull them off the field and put in a fresh batch might just annoy your opponent quite a lot. So that is it for Kataphron Breachers. Hope you enjoyed and possibly learned something new. I may have been a bit, again, unfair to Breachers, as I'm struggling to see their role in compared to Destroyers, who I think just do shooting so much better, and where Breachers may have a bit more survivability with 3+ save. They don't hit as hard in shooting, and they don't hit particularly hard in combat either. So I'm just struggling to see them how they work on that side. I've got, you know, a whole bunch with Torsion Cannon, so at one point I'm going to wheel them out and give them a try, but we'll see. So, you know, if I was to give a recommendation on how I field them, Heavy Arc Rifle and Arc Claw is the cheapest way to field them as far as I know, and just saving those points, keeping them cheap and cheerful, certain objectives possibly, and ping off a bunch of shots. That's how I probably play my Breachers. Unfortunately, I do not have them modelled that way. So yeah, please check us out on social media. We have a bunch of content, a bunch of projects on the go at the moment. I think we've got a couple of armies on the go, so we're hoping to have them either before the end of the year or the start of the year. We've got a few new stuff coming out, so check out the progress on social media, and we'll put up community stuff as well. So thanks again. Please comment, share, like and subscribe, and if there's if you want to see any more of this, check us out on our Tabletop Salt Battle Report.